I was una fiera. I was going to change the world. I was like, oh. Where did that strength go? Now I'm like this coward. Now I'm like fearful. Now I'm like more feminine. Now, and it was fight or flight. I had no choice. I had these 3 kids that I had to fucking fend for. And that's all I saw. Now I don't have that. I don't have anything in front of me that says that is the prize. And that's scary as fuck.
But it's the best part though.
So everyone's telling me. I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I want this.
No, of course.
So I'm like, so I went to Miami yesterday because I was thinking about moving to Miami. Every time I go to fucking Miami, I cry.
Aww.
I get there, we sat in front of the, I get emotional, we sat in front of the apartment building, and I start bawling. It's the second time I go with my girlfriend because we might move in together. She wouldn't be full-time, but she would have a place, and we would share the space.
You have a lot of history with Miami then.
A lot of history,
yeah, a lot.
but especially the ending of my marriage.
Oh.
So I always felt like my husband left me for Miami.
Right.
And so I show up at the apartment, I call the woman, I'm like, oh, we're downstairs. She goes, oh, come in, I'll give you the key. I couldn't get out the car. I just start bawling.
Aww.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I don't have to move until August. Maybe by August I'll be ready. And maybe Miami isn't my place. I don't know. I don't even know where the hell I'm gonna live. I am so in chaos, not having absolutely any identity, that every single aspect of my life is in shambles. So of course I'm craving stability and structure. But it's my job to reinvent myself. It's my job to create what the next stage is going to look like. That's my responsibility. But when you have clients that are in that sort of like their life has blown up or fallen apart, they often come like that. So it's what I told you the other day about Pretty Woman. What did Julia Roberts say to Richard Gere? Oh, you don't make anything? He goes, no, I break down companies and sell them. Of course he felt meaningless. So people that oftentimes don't have jobs or lay in bed all day, they feel meaningless. Why? Because they're not making, they're not creating anything. There's no second chakra. It's not that everybody is about sex and money, even though that's oftentimes, especially in Miami, oh, they just want to know how much money you have and what size boobs you have. It's because second chakra has to do with the creative energy. It's the sexual energy, the second chakra energy that makes something. Think of the baby. It takes the idea and it makes it into something. So oftentimes, that's why we see that conversation about sex and boobs and money and the Lamborghini and the Speedo. And what that person is craving is that they want to create something. They want to have some meaning in their life. That's why we have second chakra issues. So when you're like Richard Gere, when you're not making anything, and he was a gazillionaire, this wasn't about money. He had no meaning, he had no purpose, his life was empty, that's why he picked up the prostitute. And the whole purpose of that movie is that she made him more alive. She gave him life. Not just sex. The symbology of sex and life, just like I told you the other day, why do you see funeral homes next to hotels? You've never noticed?
No.
Next to funeral homes, there's a hotel.
That's great.
Go to Okeechobee.
Motel.
Go to Hialeah. Go to Miami. Why? In astrology, the 8th house is the house of sex, and the house of other people's money, as the house of death. When something dies, as my whole life died in front of my eyes in a minute, when something dies, what do you want to do? The minute something dies in your life, what do you want to do? You want to create something.
Replace it.
You want to replace it. And in order to replace something dead, You need to birth something new. It's the whole story of Jesus. He died, he resurrected. Parts of us die, we resurrect. We create new things. So that's the symbology of having a hotel, usually little hourly hotels, fancy, next to the funeral home. And it's funny because people will say, oh, at the funeral, I met my third husband. Or
I've heard
people
that.
get horny around funerals. Because there is an innate need to birth something new. Something just died. So if something dies in you, you have a need to create something. So guess what? You might go out and fuck. Psychologically, if you're fucking, you're going to create a baby, even though it doesn't lead to baby. Or if you masturbate, it's not going to lead to a baby. Yes. Wait, I can't hear.
So was it an endless cycle of death and rebirth then?
Absolutely. The whole purpose of our existence is an absolute cycle of death and rebirth. And that's why the body, how your cells recharge every how long? Every year, how often do we have new cells?
Oh, he said
Weeks, I think.
Weeks?
Yeah.
And they say that your whole body, all the cells sort of, renew every year or something like that. So we're in a constant state of death and rebirth. So when something in your life dies, what you want is to birth something new. You want the chaos, that empty space, and you want to birth something new. But guess what? I told you that if you birth anything, if you create anything, it comes with form. It comes with limits. It comes with rules. You can't just keep it an idea. Ideas are great, but they don't make you money. They don't turn into the business. My mother had the idea of the leggings, of the pantyhose. She's sitting at home dreaming of her pantyhose while the lady at Spanx is making $1 gazillion. Because she did something with the idea. That's why I say show the fuck up. You show up to your life, you at least have a choice. You have an option of at least taking that idea and doing something with it. So the whole meaning of the movie of Pretty Woman, because it really is a symbolic movie, is there was this guy who was pretty much dead. He never smiled. He was just like whatever. He had $1 gazillion, no happiness, meets this prostitute who basically says, you don't create anything. And he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Now I want to birth something. I want to create something. I want to stop destroying companies and selling them off for parts, but I want to actually make something. That's why we use those words. I want to make something of myself. You want to take your energy and you want to do something with it. But you're not going to do that with chaos. Chaos is just going to stay a fucking idea. And you're going to twiddle your thumbs and make nothing of yourself. Unless you put structure, rules, and order to your life, that's why in my model, step 6 is have a rule book. And what are rules? Rules are your values. If you do not know your values, you're fucked. So the other night, I went out with a friend of mine. And we go to this bar where he hangs out all the time. The first time that I get drunk in my life, I had 3 drinks. And I was laughing and having a good time, whatever. I met all his friends because this is where he hangs out all the time. And it was a nice evening. Great.
Right? That's what I was thinking.
What?
It's a he.
Oh, well, you met him. He's come here before. He's one of my best friends.
No, yeah, but
Oh.
is he married? Is he single?
No, he's
I'm
single.
kidding.
No, it's not like that. He's my best friend since 7th grade. So it's funny because I was observing all these people while I'm at the bar. So I'm talking to all these people, but I see him go off to meet this woman and flirt. I see this other woman in the corner, then I start talking to these other people. And I'm, for me, drunk. Maybe for someone else it's tipsy, but I could not drive, and I would not drive in that state. So I stayed over, and the next morning I'm driving home, and I'm reassessing the night. And I'm like, I love my friend. He is one of my dearest, dearest friends. Love him to death. Enjoy his company. But really, the rest of the evening wasn't really what I'm about. I'm not a drinker. You know, I can have a glass of wine, but I'm not someone who gets drunk. I'm not someone who goes to a bar to pick up men. This isn't my truth. These aren't my values. It's just the reality of it. That just is not who I am. So in trying to find my new identity, I don't know who the fuck I am, but I'm learning what I'm not. And that was an experience. So I went home, and in my rule book, okay, these are things that I'm not. And as nice as it was, and as fun as it was, and it was great, whatever, that's not really my thing. Because I'm in tune with my values to know that that's one of the rules that I just don't want to break. I don't like feeling out of control. It's not that I have wine and I drink and I feel great, but I don't ever want to get to that point where I feel so out of control. It doesn't make me feel good. Not to mention health-wise and stuff like that. So that helps me put a limit. And the only way that you're going to know and make something of yourself and really use the chaotic God energy that you've been given and make something and have meaning and purpose in your life is if you know your values. I've been talking about values all term. If you don't know your values, you're not going to have a freaking clue what you stand for. How are you going to know when you've created something that matters to you? Yes?
So suppose that you have the death of something in your life, basically what I'm trying to ask is, what would you say for someone who's fearful to resurrect, so to speak?
A lot of people are fearful to resurrect, but it is the cycle of life, and you must. Every winter is followed by a spring. I'm in a winter. I fucking know that the spring is coming. It may be 6 years from now. I don't know when. But nature tells me that following every winter comes a spring. Following every chaos, there's some structure. Following every thought form of conception, a baby, there's a body. Just because you're afraid of it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. The cycle of death and rebirth is going to happen whether you like it or not. Now, I'm trying to find my new identity. Figure out who the hell Francis is. I have no clue. I'm trying to figure this out. Someone in my shoes could totally be fearful about finding it out, sit home, do nothing, and then that's their resurrection. That doesn't mean that something's going to come of the death. That's a choice. That's free will. There's a lot of people that waste their life. And it's usually because they're continuously creating chaos. I don't want that. I want stability. I want to take the chaos and make stability. I want to take this winter and make it into a spring. But that you're going to resurrect because that's just the way it is. That's the natural course of the cycle of life. But you could waste that, and a lot of people do. Does that answer your question?
I've wasted enough. This is my 20th resurrection right now.
Okay, and you're going to keep having them for the rest of your life. What's that saying? The only constant is change?
Yeah, as long as I have the order and stability and organization, I'm good.
And one of the things that's giving you order and stability right now is your child and school.
Mm-hmm.
So when Paula talks about her past, I don't know and maybe you didn't have any structure or rules back then, but now within the chaos that is still your life, you live at home, you don't want to, the money, blah, blah, blah. I know that you have some structure. Your child and your school. You're creating something because you're coming to school every day and you're working towards a degree. That's the creation of something. So one of the things I've thought about is going back to school. I've applied to every program you can think of. Because for me, every answer is school. The more I know, maybe one day I'll be smart enough to actually be able to teach. Hence, I teach for a living. I reopen the wound every time I teach, right? So that was one of my things. I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back to school. Because to me, I'm like, I'll learn something new. I'll meet new people. I'll be in a new environment. Is it feasible? Is it realistic? Is it even financially probable? Probably not. A lot of the things I'm looking at are long distance. I would have to travel one time a month. That's flights, that's hotels, it's time away from work. That might not be the order and the structure that's going to be the answer. I'm just trying new things. I'm just trying to figure it out. And that's what we do. In our resurrection period, when we're all chaotic, we try different things. And that's where the therapist helps. Oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Why don't we give it this a go? Let's set priorities. Let's try to figure out if this is the answer. And you help a client not beat themselves up just because they don't know. They're figuring it out. What is the first thing that a baby does after he's born?
Cries.
He cries, and you take the baby home, and then what happens?
You start a life with a kid.
Well, let's talk about the kid. What is the kid? What happens to the child?
Oh, he starts developing new responses, picks up his head.
New responses, you look at
turns
his head, when
falls
he
on
rolls
the floor.
over. I remember that when my kids were little, I would put them on this blanket, and they would crawl to the edge of the blanket, and they would touch the grass and come back. They didn't like the feeling of the grass. The child is discovering his new surroundings. With every rebirth, that's what you're doing. You're trying to discover new surroundings. So since I'm in this period of my life, I'm just discovering new things about myself. Do I like this? Do I not like that? Okay, maybe I can do that. Maybe not so much. It's just like the child that's discovering the ability. Oh, my hand, I have a hand. He's discovering new form. He's discovering what he likes and what he doesn't like. Ever give a baby some pears? They like the pears and the apple, but you give them like the beef and they're like, ugh. They spit it out because it tastes horrible. They're discovering themselves. We're supposed to do that throughout our life. And when our life is most chaotic, that's exactly when we're supposed to discover our form. And just like the parent tells the child, no, that'll burn you, don't touch that, don't go there, except now you're an adult, you're the one who's supposed to take that newborn baby, your chaos, and give it structure by imposing your own rules, your own deadlines, your own daily structure, what time you're going to wake up, what time you're going to go to bed, if you're going to work out, what kind of foods you're going to eat, what you're going to do for a living. And your therapist participates in that. So you get people that are really, really lost, that have no fucking clue. Socrates said he knew nothing. The smartest man at that time in the world said he knew nothing. We don't know anything. And so we're discovering so we can get to know ourselves with each one of these cycles. But when clients are wanting to throw out their entire life, destroy all of it, it's simply because they're trying to not follow the rules. They don't want limitations. And your job is to explain each and every one of us is limited by something. And so Lily wants to give her daughter a quinces. Financially, she can't right now, the way that her daughter wants it. She could have a get-together at her house, maybe a little lunch,
I did that.
but no, her daughter wants it. And so the mother, the structure, says, no, that's not the way it's gonna happen. If not, her daughter would take her entire savings and throw it to a party. Your clients do the same thing. Your clients, even though they are in adult bodies, are not adults. When we are in states of chaos, we are not adults.
I can't. Does she need water or something?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh, she's fine.
You sure? Cause she.
Yeah, she's fine. Our clients, even though they're adults, are not necessarily acting like adults. We have this idea that adults, because they're in adult bodies,
Know everything.
are grown up. No. Yeah, my 18-year-old is an adult. She's 18, she lives on her own, she's got a boyfriend, she goes to college, she's got her car. She's living the life. Please, I'm 46 and I know nothing. You think my 18-year-old knows anything? Just because society tells you you're an adult or your body has developed and you've got boobs and an ass doesn't mean you're an adult. But that's how we judge. So we have to remember that when we have clients, if you're going to deal with adults, even though they're in adult bodies, they may just be acting like a baby. And just like babies need structure and rules, you as the therapist help your child, your client. You love them, but you train them. You educate them, you teach them, you validate them. You say maybe a little to the left, maybe a little to the right. Maybe that's not such a good idea. So a lot of times we are in the role of parent with a client, but not a, in my opinion at least, a permissive parent that says, yeah, do whatever you want, blow up your life. So these two clients yesterday happened to be this whole story in different ways. One wanted to blow up her life in terms of her family without having any resources, and the other one wanted to self-destruct through her physical. Does this make sense? Any questions? Chaos, order. You see someone who has created so much chaos in their life, it's really a longing for order. They just may not know how to start. You help them put some order in their life, and you start with small things, just like children. And then goals. We work towards things. Then all of a sudden things don't look so overwhelming. You know that saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater? Okay, there's a saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It means just because you can't have like one thing, don't throw everything away. That's what oftentimes clients that create chaos will do. They say, fuck it, my life is such a shambles, or I don't want rules from my boss, that I'm gonna like leave my wife, leave my job, leave everything. They throw the baby out with the bathwater. So part of our job is, okay, you can have some chaos. Chaos is part of life. But let's also add some structure. It's the balance. And that's why Jesus and Buddha are such role models. Because they were the perfect balance between chaos and structure, between spirit and matter, between God and the flesh. It's not that either one of them were perfect. It's that they, in Buddha's case, achieved enlightenment because he understood that the body had needs, structure, Remember, he didn't want to eat the rice. When he realized, oh fuck, my body needs food, I better eat, check, structure. But I'm God, I can be enlightened, chaos.
So, for example, using my mom as an example, that she says that she has order and she's organized and blah 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 blah. She goes to work, then from work to whatever she has to do, then from there church, and then back home. Would you say that that's a life of chaos and structure both at the same time? Or
No.
is she structured like it's
That's the extreme on the other side. That's someone who cannot get out of a paradigm, get out of way of thinking, and is confined to those thoughts that that's the only way that it should be.
so
That's part of the reason she has a problem with you.
yeah.
The problem she has is that she has no room for anything but what she says is the way it should be. You're not the problem. Her thinking is the problem. If she was actually a balance between chaos and structure, of God and spirit, spirit and matter, she would go to work, go to church, but she would also understand that you are your own person, with your own meaning and purpose, with your own goals, with your own life, and she would make room for that. That's called acceptance. That's when you love someone else, you accept as they are. It doesn't mean you don't tell them that they're fucking up their life. I love my clients, but when I gotta tell you, you're fucking up your life, you're fucking up your life. But I accept that they're doing what they can do, the best way they can do it, with what they know, with the tools they have. She's so rigid, she has no acceptance of anything other than what it should look like, the way she thinks it should look. Last I checked, there are a ton of different nationalities, there's different heights, there's different weights, there's different hair colors, there's different eye colors. If God intended it to look one way, it would only look one way. So she is the opposite, where she doesn't want to have any room for any outside of the box thinking. That's control. She wants to have it her way. There's no acceptance, her towards you. Now, when do we find this? We find this in ourselves. Clients that have self-hatred want it to be a certain way, that they have to look a certain way, that they have to act a certain way, and who's their target? Themselves. So I can self-destruct by putting so many rules about what I should be and do and look like that my target becomes myself. In your mom's case, you're her target. But so many people become their own target because it must look this way. And those are control freaks. And we all know or are a control freak.
No.
So we're not having any room for acceptance of it looking a different way. I'm guilty of this with myself. It should look this way because it once looked this way. Well, bitch, it's gone.
Exactly.
Expiration.
Like my mom always compares and she's like, oh, but you weren't like this and you weren't like that.
Oh yeah.
But now you are.
I'm
Yeah.
like this, you can't change it.
So her issue is hers, wanting it to look a certain way. And part of our job with clients, because remember, we're working with the mind, is getting them to understand that things change and things look a different way. I didn't want my husband to leave. He left. I didn't want to lose my hair. I lost it. It sucks. It fucking sucks. And you tell your client, it fucking sucks. And you let them cry and you let them have a temper tantrum. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. And you help them reframe it and accept this is what it is. Rather than throw away their life, commit suicide,
Yeah.
whatever it is. However, many people are committing suicide in different ways, or throwing away their life. So if we have that capricho that it has to look the way it has to look because it once was, we're in trouble. So yesterday with this couple, this is one of the things that I was talking to them about. And they were talking about this one time where she didn't feel supported.